And it be all in my drink. You niggas is stupid, you think that shit change? You not even hot in your gang. Ain't nothing even hot about your gang. You niggas be lying about same. Be posting them pictures of guns for the fame. Niggas just look at me different now. Say that's your man, but he a clown. Don't fuck around with the fuck arounds. Little nigga, you should cut it out. Me and my niggas take different routes. Punch a bitch nigga all in his mouth. Hold up my nigga, we different now. I need a raw, this is my style. I get a check today, I spent it all tomorrow. I get a bitch today, she probably a foreign model. I get a check today, I spent it all tomorrow. I'm with my gang today, tomorrow never promise.
OG, I draw up the plate, and then he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang, gang, gang. OG, I draw up the plate, and then he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang, gang, gang. OG, I draw up the plate, and then he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang, gang, gang. OG, I draw up the plate, and then he go get the cake. Then we link up with the gang, gang, gang.
All right, gang, we're gonna get right into it today. Just don't feel like messing around anymore. We'll start with reviewing this theological video called Apologists Are Special Pleading. Let's go ahead and take off on this.
Christianity arose from a world where prominent figures were said to be the offspring of high gods and mortal women,
All right,
in some cases due to sexless conception, the mere pneuma, spirit, or touch of the god. Devotees of Bacchus turned whatever they touched into wine. Asclepius healed the lame, the blind, and the paralytic, and raised the dead. He, too, was raised from death and appeared to others on earth. Romulus ascended to heaven.
Yo, Derek, I gotta move, which is why this has turned into like things have been super stressful lately. But I'm gonna hit you up as soon as I get on the other side of this move.
Heaven in a cloud and appeared to a trusted witness,
at the end
Proculus
of the month.
Julius, to deliver a great commission. Augustus, the son of a god and savior of the world, calmed torrential storms and cured disease. The death of his father, Julius Caesar, was accompanied by earthquakes, darkened skies, and the silent dead rising from their tombs. The body of Aristeus went missing after he died, only to appear alive again to many witnesses in Sicily. I cannot emphasize this enough. Christianity arose from a world that was saturated with these very kinds of stories. It emerged from the same ancient Mediterranean milieu, the same general time and place where these mythic motifs were prevalent, and it's just a coincidence that it shares these features? That's what apologists Eric Manning and Michael Jones would have us believe. That this comparative data should have no bearing whatsoever on how we assess the claims of the New Testament. That analogical reasoning, frames of reference, and geographical and historical provenance are irrelevant. Who argues this way, other than someone who was beholden to an inherited cultic mindset, someone who is hell-bent on defending the worldview they prefer, rather than one that is arrived at through critical and reasoned examination?
But this is why your mom sucks at critical thinking, right? I mean, I hate to say it, but it's just over for Christianity for me. I admire at some level the tone that so many counter apologists take, because I really do think they are respectful, almost to a flaw, with Christians and believers. But I'm just exhausted. And I just don't think this is a reasonable way to reason. And the sad part is this, gang, the apologists are about that life. The non-believers are not. So, sorry, the average believers are not. So, they can't do any better. That's the elephant in the room when you're a counter-apologist, when you're an atheist, when you know what's up. It's that you got to listen to these ridiculous apologists who argue like children and then realize the believers in your life can't do any better. And that these are the type of people they rely upon to uphold their beliefs. We would not accept that socially in any other walk of life. And look at the consequences of accepting it in this walk of life. We have to get to a point where we decide the sweet, innocent old lady thing to do is not be a fucking cultic monster. It's not worship a deity who commits genocide and has a handbook for slavery early on in his fucking manifesto to humanity. History has to matter. And I just think we're living in a moment in history where it's time to take the fight to religion. And that kind of means taking it to the believers in our lives. Because if the world were just left to apologists, grifters, and ministers, Christianity really wouldn't be that much of a threat. I mean, go to your average megachurch and count the number of people who work at that church full time, who are getting paid salaries. You're going to be very hard pressed to find churches where that number is higher than 20. Really hard to find churches where that number is higher than 50. You're talking huge ministries at that point. 50 fucking employees. There are thousands and thousands upon congregants in these places. That's the thing that I've been coming around to the more and more we work through this and deal with things in our community. It's so easy to point to the people at the top of the pyramid rather than the fucking base that is holding it up. It is the same thing we do in politics. We go off about the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Trumplican fucktards instead of the millions of people voting for them. We have to, at some point, come face to face with the realization that it's the people. And the people are just not as good of people as we thought they were. We have to come face to face with that uncomfortable reality. And y'all, I'm going to be the first to do it. Let me lay it out for you. My mother is a fucking cult person who turns into fuckface Frank Turek and a fucking gaslighting liar as soon as you start talking about religion. My grandparents are cult leaders. They're liars. They know the bigotries that their religion is based on. They know the anti-intellectual nature. They do it anyway. I don't know what's wrong with them. But I'm not going to keep pretending like they're the sweetest, honest, most genuine, most loving. No, that's that cult bullshit. All right, y'all, let's keep going. But that's the point of all of this for me now. We gonna shit on the apologists, but I'm gonna just remind your ass, the believers in your life, they're really not any better.
This, as I've said many times, is what apologetics is all about.
Yeah, man, we got to give Derek Bennett some love. Make sure y'all sub if you're not subscribed, man.
So we're going to go through the highlights of apologists Eric Manning and Michael Jones' recent discussion with Derek Lambert on Testify. The link to the original discussion will be included in the description, where you can see the full discussion along with Derek's responses. Derek, as you'll see, is far nicer and more patient than I am.
I don't know how y'all do it, man. Derek, you know what though? Derek kept it real, man. If y'all didn't see that Mythvision stream on religious trauma, man, y'all need to check that shit out. That shit is crazy. But let me tell you, man, it's because of the recovery journey, man. It's because Derek has been to places most of us can't fucking imagine. And so the empathy is real, you know. It's tough. It's tough because if you genuinely admire it, then you do ask yourself, you know, how much more patient and understanding and compassionate should you be with people, right? So that's Derek kind of brings out that tension in me. You know, I see his example and I certainly think I could give people a lot more grace than I do. At the same time, I have a genuine anger about all this that I need to find an outlet in way to express, and I don't know how to be patient when I'm out of patience, right? I'm one of those people who don't ask me a question you don't want an answer to, you know, because I'm probably honest to a fault. I'm too stoned to keep track of falsehoods. The easiest thing to do is just play it straight at all times, and then you don't have to fucking keep track of shit. So, but yeah, that's where we're at. That's where we're at, and that's the dynamics y'all see playing out. You know, sometimes people approach things a lot differently than I do. It doesn't mean I don't love and appreciate their approach. It just means I come at it a different way, and sometimes I think maybe their way is better than mine. Who knows?
These discussions to him, because frankly I couldn't stomach this bullshit myself. Without further ado,
I would say that I think it's impossible for humans to be computers. In that regards, you just reason machines. There is a spectrum though, like there are more analytical thinkers and there are more emotional thinkers. Like in sociology, they'll classify different types of intelligence, like analytical intelligence versus emotional intelligence. And believers tend to have more emotional intelligence and atheists tend to have more analytical intelligence.
Given that all of this requires an analytical approach, that was a mouthful right there.
And so some people do gravitate more towards the analytical side, but I do think it's absolutely impossible for anyone to choose a belief without some sort of emotions involved. Just like I think it's impossible for people to choose beliefs purely on emotion. I don't think it's either or. I think we all choose our beliefs, and then when we pick them, even if it's something little,
we choose
intelligence versus emotional intelligence.
All right, hang on. I need to hear his opening again. He got me thinking about this.
I would say that I think it's impossible for humans to be computers. In that regards, you just reason machines. There is a spectrum though, like there are more analytical thinkers and there are more emotional thinkers. Like in sociology, they'll classify different types of intelligence, like analytical intelligence versus emotional intelligence. And believers tend to have more emotional intelligence and atheists tend to have more analytical intelligence.
No, just there's sometimes you got to listen to what a person's saying, but then you got to also listen to what they're saying. You understand what I'm saying? Like there's what a person's saying and there's all right, here's the way to think about it. There's what a person's saying and then there's what they're doing with their words, right? So he's giving us this seemingly cold analysis of the different types of intelligence and shit like that. But it's such a tap dance. It's such a word game that you're already into this unreasonable space, and it's always a setup. It's always a setup with Christians, and you know they just don't have the goods. And the best way I could put it is people who have the goods don't talk this way, right? They don't respond to everything with a fucking critical analysis of the questions and the state of humanity, and like they just provide straight answers to simple questions. And when you can't do that, it's a really good sign that you know you're full of shit. And this person definitely knows he's full of shit, and this guy knows he's full of shit. And that's what is so frustrating to me, is this whole song and dance we have to play with these people who are not genuine people. And I wonder at what point it's like the moral obligation is going to be shifting more and more to us to be more direct, at least in our own spaces, about what's going on. I actually really appreciate that about some of Derek's recent videos, like where he's really just kind of been more direct about what's going on with a lot of the apologists he's dealing with, but he tends to do it in the videos on his own channel. They're really good. Some of it was reacting to a lot of apologists' bad behavior and getting kind of desperate, but that was really refreshing. Because at the end of the day, we need more people who are willing to point out the elephant in the room.
Given that all of this requires an analytical approach, that was a mouthful right there.
And so some people do gravitate more towards the analytical side, but I do think it's absolutely impossible for anyone to choose a belief without some sort of emotions involved. Just like I think it's impossible for people to choose beliefs.
All right, here's another way you can tell when the dodgeball and the word games are fucking happening, right? Is when they're very keen on getting people to concede to very obvious things. Again, they don't have good arguments. They really don't have the meat and the potatoes. So they're gonna bullshit around with the salt and pepper because, you know, that's all there is. And I find that to be problematic because they're basically trying to build the yes train. You know, they're trying to get you to agree to a couple of kind of truthisms that anybody's gonna nod along with, and then they're trying to build some favor and some rapport, and then they're gonna slip into the games before you know it. But again, reasonable people making reasonable arguments don't have to start with this type of shit to begin with.
On emotion, I don't think it's either or. I think we all choose our beliefs, and then when we pick them, even if it's something little,
boom, and then go into the bullshit. Boom, exactly. There was the bullshit. Then we choose our belief. So everybody's got a little bit of emotion involved in the process. Okay, yeah, that's pretty reasonable. Like I don't even. It's hard to imagine decisions without emotion involved in it. Most of us just understand that emotions play a role in decision making. Information plays a role in decision making. Constraints play a role in decision making. All of this type of shit. Meaningless, just means nothing, just word salad. And then as soon as he gets to offer a little bit of sliver of something, boom. And then we choose our beliefs. Nah, nigga, please. Nope. And again, who talks like that? Only people who have to use special language. And I'm sure Derek from Mythvision, as he's in this conversation, and I'm sure Derek Bennett from Theological, as well as myself, are all aware of this. We all know that this is happening. We all just choose to point out different things with the limited engagement we have, which is actually the kind of value I think sometimes these things have. Because, you know, Derek from Mythvision, for instance, has this conversation, and he handles it beautifully. I don't have to, you know, we're not babysitting Derek from Mythvision. When we're watching him in these type of situations, we pretty much know he's gonna handle himself rather well. You know, Derek Bennett gets the benefit of sort of a third eye view, not having to be in the conversation himself, gets to chew it up, and then add his piece, show something there, and then we get to react and reflect on that. I know sometimes there's like that YouTube inception thing where you're watching a reaction to a reaction of the reaction from the reaction for the people who were reacting, right? and it gets a little bit like, I don't know, you know, how many times can we chew over the same food or whatever. But there is a way in which there's a lot of value that people are able to add with their perspective when we do things like this, as long as you know that's what's happening. We're not just repreaching each other's sermons. But anyway, let's keep it moving.
There's another mouthful there. I don't choose to be an atheist any more than I choose my blood type or my butthole's circumference. The sheer lack of evidence for any czar of the heavens is what it is. My personal preferences be damned. Is Michael tipping his hand that he chooses his beliefs? Perhaps because he favors them?
And this is a really important point, because it's something that for a lot of us who come from Christian families, it's very easy to miss this. I know myself, when I start to talk to Christians and other believers in my life, there is this rhetoric as though we choose our beliefs. And so you almost have these conversations as though you're choosing to vote for different candidates. You know, maybe they've got their reasons for voting for Trump. You've got your reasons for voting for Biden. And, you know, you're sitting here having the conversation about that. But after hearing people say this enough times, I really started to think about it. And I realized that, like, no, I'm an atheist. Like, I can't believe these claims. Like, I can't. I honestly find them unbelievable. And that sounds simple to say, oh yeah, I don't buy somebody's bullshit. I find it unbelievable. But what does it mean? It means, in a sense, this is a part of your identity that you really can't change. And it means you're as convicted, or you're as sincere in your non-belief as any believer is in theirs. In fact, perhaps more, because yours is, you know, you've done so much digging, and it's a evidentiary, it's a much more evidence-based position. But I think a lot of times we miss that. Like, we treat Christianity and faith like it's heavy. Like, oh, these people, they have their beliefs, man, and their beliefs are core, man. And like, yo, man, you better be careful, because you can't just, you better watch your mouth when you talk about people's religion, man. That shit's serious to them, man. All right, well, if it's that serious to them, then what the fuck do you want me to do about the fact that I cannot buy it? I can't buy it. I don't care how important it is to them. It's not going to change the fact that it doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Defend them, because research shows that when your beliefs are being attacked, the reptilian part of your brain lights up and flight or fight response can kick in.
Now watch the rest of this video as Michael and Eric's reptilian brains light up and their fight or flight responses kick in.
I need to interview Mr. Bennett, we did the GCRR conference together. That was so good. They released those videos, and I wanted to try to interview a bunch of those people, kind of have them do discussions about, what they presented there. But yeah, Derek Bennett's definitely one of those people.
You really
nice
can't
guy.
miss it.
So this kind of comes back up to the thing you said in the video. If it looks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And every time I hear that, I don't know where you're coming from, because we Christians could do the same type of argument. We could easily. The consensus of scholars is the Gospels are Greco-Roman biographies, lives, and scholars agree. From people like, for example, Richard Burridge is
Christian scholars agree.
The biographies were written as an aim to be historical, to just say, to try to find out what the actual facts around the person were. So I could say, well, if the Greco-Roman biographies, therefore they're history, because if it looks like a duck, it walks.
What a
like
liar!
It's got to be history.
But
and
the
those kind of sweeping generalizations, to me, don't really get us anywhere.
Of course, it would be a sweeping generalization to say that all Greco-Roman biographies are pure, sober history. Philostratus's Life of Apollonius belongs to this genre, yet it's chock full of legend. Suetonius's and Plutarch's Lives belong to this genre, yet they're chock full of legend. So there are indeed known exceptions to the idea that Greco-Roman biography always constitutes purely historical data. When it comes to mythic motifs in the ancient world, what are the known exceptions agreed to by practically everyone that bar us from deeming all such phenomena as likely legendary? You see, it's not a generalization fallacy if there aren't established exceptions to the general rule. So, what are the exceptions here, guys? If you only find them in your religious traditions, then I'd say it's pretty obvious what's going on here.
I'm not saying that proves
and
it.
That's the whoop, right? Like, yo, man, these guys, the jucking, the jiving, the dodging. Dodgeball's a good one. We like to talk about the juking and the jiving, the tap dancing, but dodgeball will make you do it. Dodgeball will get you there. And then the deflection, right? Wasn't that one of the things? Like, you could take your ball, and then if somebody tried to hit you, you could deflect. You could deflect their ball with your ball, kind of like their projection strategy. I really think you could do a lot with this dodgeball analogy. Somebody that does like the animations needs to get on this. I feel like one of the animated atheists could do a lot. But whoop, just whoop, whoop. There's a whoop. There's another good argument. Whoop, avoid that one. It's mostly the dodge though. I don't think they can jump. They don't seem like the evade type. They just duck.
This is my point here. What I'm trying to say is, like, if we make these sort of sweeping generalizations, I could just say they're historical because they're biographies.
Let's move on. I'm making sweeping generalizations. Apologists are unathletic. Is that mean? I don't give a shit.
Like what you're saying, like, well, there's mythic elements. I can compare it to Romulus. Mythic elements. Let's move on. And I see, like, would we really do this in other areas?
Yes. It's called analogical reasoning, and we use it in our everyday lives, or else we could hardly function either as individuals or as a society. In fact, our court of law uses it concerning precedent. When there are similar or analogous court cases to those from the past, established rulings or precedents come to bear on those cases. Precedent and analogical reasoning are indispensable tools for navigating the world around us, and I guarantee Jones uses them. If he wishes to toss them out only when examining his religious
faith,
we'll
see you soon.
That tells us just about everything we need to know about him.
And so when people come to me with these examples like, look at Romulus, look at Osiris, I'm like, yes, I fully acknowledge that, like, I was reading about Greek mythology in high school and Egyptian mythology in high school. I know there were many miracle claims in the ancient world. No one is going to be like, oh, yes, miracles in the ancient world, therefore Jesus was exactly alike. We do this, we believe that Jesus rose from the dead because the evidence that has been offered by the New Testament and the authors, that we feel like they're going a step further. We feel like they have been able to do something that these other myths were never even trying to do or were aiming to do.
What?
And so there's a total difference beyond just the mere correlations is what I'm trying to get at.
If you look up Jones' past series...
This dude is just like, I don't know, the sweatiest of used car salesmen who is just trying to sell you a beater as though it is just the brand newest of this. I don't know. He's just a person who is lying about what you're both looking at, like right to your face, and just I guess they. I always get the impression that they're just smart enough to think they're smart. They're smarter than like the average bear in the pews. But they're clearly not smart enough to realize that you can't just like straight up lie to intelligent people's faces who like know the shit you're talking about. Like they have a very strange relationship to their own intelligence. That's now I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a very clearly a strange relationship to their own intelligence. It really is.
On other ancient gods and their similarities to Christ, you'll notice he's at pains to explain why such similarities are fanciful or outright fabricated. Probably because there he understands the threat this poses. Now we're switching gears and saying, okay, but in the case of Jesus, we have overriding evidence. What is that evidence? Thankfully or not, Eric Manning will soon explain.
So there's criteria that we can look at and kind of filter out miracle claims before we even investigate them, because nobody wants to waste their time hearing after every stupid miracle claim out there, because there's a lot of them, and who has time to look at all of them? But we don't want to just dismiss all of them because, you know, they look like a duck and quack like a duck and smell like a duck and lay eggs or whatever. Anyway, but the point is we can filter them out. So with the thing with Augustus, okay, who's going to get persecuted and killed for saying that he rose from the dead or had an apotheosis or was born of a virgin or something like that? I mean, I know it's not a virgin birth, but he had a miraculous birth or whatever. Well, nobody.
Ah, so early Christians were persecuted and killed. Whoopee! So were early Mormons. So were early Muslims. And yet I don't hear Manning applying this filter to the miracles proclaimed by Islam or Mormonism. Funny that.
And some of the criteria are like distance, right? So if somebody says, well, such and such miracle happened, like the Apollonius, right, of Tyana. Well, a lot of the miracles that Philostratus was claiming about his miracles, and Bart Ehrman likes to use this objection, you know, Jesus isn't special. Look at Apollonius, okay? Well, the miracles that Apollonius supposedly were doing were like in India and like in all of these other countries far, far away, right? So there's some distance there. So immediately that throws up some red flags like, well, this was initially reported far, far away.
Letters telling of the miracles surrounding the 17th century Messiah figures.
That guy just sounds like he's rambling. Like his reasoning doesn't even sound coherent. These are just rambling Christians.
Sabbatai Sevi were written in the very places that he passed through on his travels. This was amid the kind of apocalyptic fervor that likely seized first-century Jews and Christians. And contra Manning's best efforts to demonstrate otherwise, the Gospels are written by anonymous Greek-speaking cultural elites from God knows where in the Hellenized Jewish diaspora. They never knew or met Jesus. Neither did Paul. Paul does claim to have met with Jesus' brother and early followers, but their direct testimony is absent from the New Testament. Not a single voice in the New Testament is from anyone that we can establish as having known Jesus or having been present for his crucifixion. So much for close distance.
Or time. Time is another one, right? Philostratus didn't write his biography about Apollonius until 100 years later, right? Whereas the resurrection, we know from the creeds and everything else that this was something that was preached in Jerusalem probably from the very beginning. Most scholars would agree to that, right? There's not too many people that would argue that.
Philostratus's life of Apollonius is indeed much later from its subject than the Gospels and Paul are from Jesus, but we know it takes no time at all for legendary embellishment. Again, Sabbatai Sevi had miracle stories told of him within his own lifetime. Supposedly, he was encompassed by a fiery cloud, commanded great stones to fall from heaven, and killed a group of highwaymen merely with the word of his mouth. Nobody actually knows just how early Christians began preaching the resurrection. It could have been days, weeks, months, or years, but frankly, it doesn't matter, given just how quickly legends can develop, especially in fervent religious and apocalyptic settings.
Okay, so there's distance, there's time. I already mentioned the one about confirming opinions that were already established.
Such a bad look.
What you have with the resurrection is you have these people who are preaching in a hostile audience.
I'll forgive the Freudian slip about erections there, but read up on the history of Mormonism, Eric. And if you don't start wearing magic underwear afterwards, you're a hypocrite.
And there's other things that you can look at too, like are people doing these things for fame and attention? You become a
Mormon or a Scientologist in a heartbeat using this logic.
You had all these wives, you know. There's a clear motive that he was interested in power. There's a clear motive that he was interested in sex, right?
Read all the books he wrote.
That he had. They're pretty obvious.
Paul seems pretty interested in power as he asserts his apostolic authority over rival sects and places himself on equal footing with the Jerusalem pillars. Frankly, nobody does anything without some particular motivation, and I would imagine early Jews and Christians, under the crushing oppression of Roman rule, were highly motivated to see the kingdom's imminent arrival, when their enemies would be defeated and the dead raised to just reward.
And I gotta say, are today's Christians any different? Are they really any different? All of this religion. I mean, honestly, like I honestly, when I have a conversation with a Christian these days, I just want to skip to the end. I just want to skip to the end. I don't want to fucking hear about how much you love Jesus, how good you are to your neighbors. I don't want to hear about how humble you are. I don't want to hear about shit but the end. What happens in the end? Do you believe, and you start asking simple questions. Do you believe Jesus is coming back? Oh, okay, yes, cool, you do. Okay, great. What happens to you when he comes back? Okay, cool, right. He comes in on the cloud with the swords, on the riding and the whatever, and y'all get swept up into the kingdom and the blase and the Glavinoids. And what happens to the rest of us? You don't want to talk about? Why don't you want to talk about what happens to the rest of us? I'm sick of this fucking bullshit, y'all. I really am. It's just over. I think it's time we move on without the Christians. Y'all, what is up with me? Like, it's just water and weed today. I don't even have alcohol. I ordered alcohol. They didn't even have ice cream. I'm not drunk at all, but I'm running my mouth like I'm tipsy than a bitch up in here. Like, I'm just keeping it real, y'all. It's just time we just move on without the Christians. Like, we used to call this stuck on stupid. Right? And when a person is stuck on stupid, you just be like, look, they stuck on stupid. And you just move on without them. I get sick of this. We're babying people who don't want to learn. We're wasting our time. I think the fastest way to deconvert these people is to genuinely move on without them. Right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know it's the one type of way when you need to get up out let's say you dating somebody, you really shouldn't be dating them no more. And you know how it is, right? Right? Come on, y'all. You know how it is. At first, you try to sit them down and you try to talk to them and you just try to let them know how much you love them and how much you appreciate everything they've done for you, right? You're just having a couple of minor issues, right, that you like to talk to them, right? That shit don't go nowhere. And you be doing that shit for months and months, and then you start dropping hints, and you just get a little bit more clear. That shit is so exhausting. Everybody knows when motherfuckers really, the light bulb goes off and they try to get their shit together. That's when they go to work one day and they come home and your U-Haul is pulling the fuck off and because your shit is gone, you done gathered your shit, you done found you a new place, you done dip-dived and socialized on their ass. They don't know where you done went. They don't know where you at. That's when they call you. That's when they hit you. Baby, please, baby, please. I'll do. And you done. No, you good, bro. Do you. I'm moving on. That's how I feel with these fools. They stuck on stupid, y'all. Want to pretend the earth is young. Want to pretend we didn't evolve. Want to pretend men and women aren't the same. Want to pretend men and women aren't equal. Then want to pretend that if you're not whatever, like that's the only two fucking. Like I don't have time for people who want to live not in reality. Why? Like why? Can we just be honest? Most of the misogyny we deal with is from conservative-ass religious people. Most of the racism, religious people. Who fucked up the pandemic, y'all? I gotta remind you every single time because the core of fucking up the pandemic was the motherfucking churches every step of the way. Like, why? Why? At what point do we say we try working with them? It didn't work out. It didn't work out. And I'm telling you that's the way to I'm telling you that's the way to really deconvert people. We're not serious about it yet though. We got to get serious about the shit and just be like, look, we're done. Just you're in a cult. Go over there. We don't care. We don't want to talk about it anymore. It's fucking over. It's not true. You don't care what's true. You're a liar. You're not a good person. Go over there and play. Just stop. Just pull a card. Make them sit at the kids' table. Stop. God damn it, religious people are so fucking exhausting.
Might this have been their motivation to conceive of Christ as the first fruits of what they hoped was just around the corner?
Look at the Addis cult. There were guys who literally chopped both penis and balls, excuse my French, just keeping it real, off as a religious act for the cult. Now, I don't know about you. They must have believed something was true about it, even if it was false. And they were doing the craziest things that we would be like, why would you do that?
But were they doing it for something that they witnessed personally themselves, touched and handled for a long period of time?
Great flying balls and wieners, Eric blithely asserts, without evidence, that actual witnesses touched and handled the risen Jesus for long periods of time, based on stories from non-eyewitnesses about half a century after the supposed event. Nothing circular about that.
I could agree that the Gospels do things like transplant, paraphrase. They may even borrow mythic elements. I think they're constantly going to the Old Testament and going, okay, Jesus did this. Let's compare it to what Elijah did. I'd be perfectly fine with them if they did the same thing with like Julius Caesar or Caesar Augustus. That wouldn't necessarily follow, though, to the conclusion that this is not true.
Once again, it's analogical reasoning, an inductive inference, which is logically valid. Michael makes the mistake of assuming that deductive certainty is the only form of logic. It's not necessarily the case that analogous tales in Christianity are also myths, but when such stories spring from the same Greco-Roman milieu of competing cults and ideas, what is the likelihood here? It's probably more of the same.
I'm looking at the documents as wholes, right? And so if I'm seeing multiple different ways that the Gospels are confirmed as being historical, if somebody over and over again is honest with me, I'm going to begin to trust them, right?
Here and elsewhere, Eric takes refuge in geographical and historical accuracy in various portions of the Gospels. Of course, James Cameron's Titanic gets a lot right about the ship's historic sinking, but that doesn't mean that Jack's balls are frozen and Rose will never let go of them. This is the mark of historical fiction. Suetonius's work regarding the Caesars, Plutarch's parallel lives, and Livy's history of Rome include historically accurate information about people and places of the time, but they're still littered with mythological and legendary motifs. And are the Gospels really that historically accurate? From Herod's infamous slaughter of the innocents, confirmed by no historian ever, to Caesar Augustus's worldwide census, confirmed by no historian ever, to the earthquake and risen saints that accompanied Christ's crucifixion, confirmed by no historian ever. Sure, the Gospels are just scarily fucking accurate.
You look.
All right, gang, it's Freaky Friday. We are here in the Boom Boom Room. See, y'all don't even know, man. We got all types of rooms and types of spaces and gather. You don't even know. You don't even know. It's a room in here for everything. But look, I'm gonna tell you like this, man. I'm keeping it 100% tonight. I don't know why, but look. We could wrap this up with just this simple phrase, but it's so powerful, y'all. Christians just wanna be Christians. And I'm daring some of y'all to go there. Look, talk to some of the real people in your life, and you are gonna be blown away by what they say to you, y'all. When I talked to my mother, I tried to explain to her that I was concerned that all of these people were just lying to her. And like I tried to explain how difficult it is to know that somebody's lying to your family members and to just sit there and watch them be lied to. It's just literally like, okay, well, I've been warned. I'm telling you. And it's kind of like Cliff, because the thing you have to realize at that point is it doesn't matter anymore. Right? Like you could work through whatever angle you want to work through. But once you realize a person really doesn't care what's true, and they've just decided what they want to believe, and so they're going to believe that no matter what, the only conversation left to have is why they feel that strongly about that belief. And why that belief can't be wrong, and what would happen if that belief was wrong. Because it just starts to feel like everything else is a distraction, because this is not how reasonable people behave with any of these areas. What do I mean by that? Incredulity is something you're supposed to have for your own sake. It is for your benefit to doubt people. If somebody, it's like you would tell a child, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So if you're doing some car shopping and you get a ballpark of what the type of car you want cost, and then all of a sudden you find the car you want and it's like half that price. Yeah, probably something very fishy about that deal, right? Because again, if it was really just on the market like that, somebody would have already snatched it up. So it's probably something going on. Like, you would be suspicious. And that's just what happens. Everything about these religions is structured the exact way it would be if you wanted to lie to somebody. If you were gonna con somebody, the best con ever would be, oh my goodness, I'm gonna make your life literally perfect. Yeah, after you die. Trust me, it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing, but you'll get it after you die. I mean, really? I mean, you literally never have to show the person that you really can provide for them what you've offered them, right? Let's go back to our car analogy. If somebody really said, no, for real, I'm gonna really sell you the car for half the price, you're gonna be like, all right, cool. I'm gonna come over to the car lot. Let me see it, right? And then they're gonna let you see it. If they don't let you see it, you're like, yeah, nah, it's something else. If they really want to sell it to you, though, I bet you they'll let you see it. That's why you would go see it. It's why you would take it, because you want to make sure they actually have the car. Then you would take it for a test drive, right? Make sure it really holds up, right? Then you would get the serial number. You want to make sure it's not a lemon. Make sure you ain't getting nothing that's been stitched together after it's been blown apart. So you would get the history of it. You would make sure this was a good place to buy cars from, right? Like, you would go through all of those steps. But you do it ultimately to protect yourself, because you don't want to spend your hard-earned money on some BS. And this is the part with Christians where it just gets so frustrating. How much work do I have to do to help you not waste your time? If you don't care about being bamboozled, why am I going to lose sleep over it? If you don't care that the people taking 10% of your income off the top ain't never shown you no kind of evidence for it, I don't know what to tell you. Apparently you don't value your money. Damn sure now you're going to give me no financial advice from here on out. What is wrong? Why are we, you know what I'm saying, y'all? Like, I get that it's our problem to the extent that we have to figure out a way to collaborate on democracy with these people, but I'm kind of trying to tell you we should stop. Because showing them that the irony is its respect. It's like the X. It says, I respect you enough to take you seriously. If you literally are committed to being stuck on stupid and believing a fantasy and being lied to the rest of your life, fine, cool. But from now on, we just get to treat you like that's exactly what you're committed to. And then we just gonna figure out what the grown folks in the room have to do. See, that will really turn them off. Right now, we make religion so good for them, y'all. Why? Because they get the best of both worlds. We treat them like they're just the wonderful people here in our reality. They're the most honest, loving people. We're so happy to be around them. We're just, they're just so wonderful. And then on top of that, they get to be off in La La Land where Jesus is going to make everything right and God is provisioning for them and Jesus helped them find their car keys, and your atheist ass should come to Jesus eventually or face the consequences. And, well, you did have plenty of time to repent. So a lot of times what we're offering them is like, why give up the Christian goodies when they just get so much esteem out of it? If we really started treating them like, sure, but like, I have a very hard time taking you seriously, it would be very costly to a lot of them. It would be hard because they would start to know people really look down on them for being Christians. Like people really do find it silly. Like people, you know what I'm saying? Like people kind of, you know what I mean? Like people think it's really weird. Like people think you're strange because, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what they need. They really do. They need some kind of consequences, y'all.
Look at like John's gospel, for example, and like he's talking to you about like all of these different like unnecessary details, right? But he's not over the top with the way that he explains things. He says Peter was warming his hands by a charcoal fire, for example. I mean, that's kind of weird. Charcoal? Why charcoal? Why are you picking
exactly,
that one out,
Lena?
right? That's just one example. Okay, don't take that and run with it because you could go wild with it.
Thanks, I will go wild with it. We reached the Aeolian island next, the home of Aeolus, Hippotas' son, beloved by the gods who never die. A great floating island it was, and round it all huge ramparts rise of indestructible bronze, and sheer rock cliffs shoot up from sea to sky. That's a lot of rich detail. It's also from Homer's Odyssey, ipso facto fiction.
I also wanted to bring up this idea, like, it's related to this, is like, if God does exist, and he did want to reveal himself to humanity, how is he supposed to do it without matching things that we would claim as myth or miracle? Like, what is he supposed to do?
That's
like,
what I was going back
scour
to
the myths and be like, you know, like, okay, well, someone was born of a virgin. I can't do that. Well, someone, you know, ascended into heaven. I can't do that. I mean, I feel like if I was an alien and I wanted to trick humans into thinking I was a god, I would do things that would fall in line with their own religious beliefs now. Like I would do exactly what they thought would show divinity. Right. So it just seems like it's just very unfair to the theistic worldview to say things like, well, you know,
this is what I mean. Again, this is literally defending why the fucking used car salesman doesn't have to show you the car. Well, I mean, because of course, if you really did have it, if he showed you that he had it, then everybody'd be by it, and then it wouldn't be much of a deal at all, would it? You know, so you got to believe, like, and then you pay half up front, okay, and then you get to see it. Like this guy, these are just people who want to be lied to, y'all.
Mythology, these people believed in miracles. You know, that's just what any theist, cool. That's what all their beliefs are. I mean, like, what is God supposed to do in this situation?
Poor God.
Like, make sure he does certain miracles that have never, ever been talked about before?
Yeah, what's a poor omnipotent God supposed to do? Come up with his own shit? It's not like he's all-powerful and could do literally anything outside of the confines of human imagination. Poor bastard. Let Occam's razor rip on this ad hoc travesty. If you're forced to ascribe to God characteristics that are indistinguishable from ancient myth and legend, then you know what? It's probably just ancient myth and legend. No need for superfluous or redundant ad hoc explanations.
You're looking at it with this particular lens of like, okay, well, if it has these particular tropes, that's just probably the way that it is. If it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck.
You're looking at it with this particular lens. No, we're just looking at it. We're just fucking looking at it. And you guys are refusing to. These guys are infuriating.
I think we're just saying, like, no, like, I'm sorry, you are going to have to look at things on a case-by-case basis.
I partially agree. As wildly improbable as something may seem, though they can barely bring themselves to admit even that much, you do have to consider the evidence and take things on a case-by-case basis. Mm-hmm. This is basically Bayesian reasoning in a nutshell. You consider the prior probability, the inherent likelihood of a given event, which in this case is astonishingly low, as it already smacks of contemporary myth and legend. And then you weigh the evidence to see if it's commensurate with the claim. The question is there sufficient evidence to prop up the initial unlikelihood of these claims? To say that in this one case, it's all true? No! All we've heard is the same stale apologetics that have been circulating for decades. The alleged proximity of the written sources, the details and the storytelling, the persecution of early adherents, etc. Several non-Christian myths, legends, and religious movements share
we can't keep going out like this, y'all. The words that are circling in my head right now as I'm listening to this are having the conversation and the argument with them is a win for them. That's what legitimizes them. Y'all, we just gotta hit them. We just gotta hit them with the real talk. Yo, we gotta hit them like I shut down that date. Okay. Oh, you're a Christian? Really? That's very interesting. So I just have a couple questions. So Jesus was alive, then he was dead, then he was alive again. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. And he died for our sins? He died for our sins. Interesting. And he's gonna come back and judge us? Like, yo, you gotta ask them the questions. And they're just like, really? Like, cool, interesting. Yeah, bless your heart. Yeah, no. Dinner's on me. This one's on me. Yeah, and have whatever you'd like. Yeah, this is on me. Woo! I mean, let these fools tell us just how nutty they are.
Same features, but all that gets ignored while laser focus is maintained on the tall tales within their own religious tradition. I wonder why.
I said some amazing shit.
These are the facts.
Sorry about that.
The ancient world from which Christianity sprung was brimming with precisely the same kind of mythological and legendary motifs. Miraculous births, healing miracles, power over the wind and seas, resurrection, apotheosis, ascension to heaven, disappearing bodies that marked the event, appearances to witnesses, and so on. Not one special exemption foisted by Jones or Manning stands up to careful scrutiny. Legends develop rapidly. People near the purported events undergo persecution and death for demonstrably false beliefs. Ancient fiction included rich detail, and even historians of the time were prone to fanciful tales. Legendary material could include historically accurate data. These apologists protest that this isn't special pleading, and that they're no more biased than the rest of us. But over and over again, their warped logic and preferential treatment of their own religious traditions betray them. I don't mean to say that they are bad people or deliberate liars, but there's an underlying intellectual dishonesty that guides their approach to all of
fundamentally
this. And it's obvious to everyone who isn't inculcated in their domineering faith system.
Absolutely.
As Patches O'Houlihan once said, dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. That's what this is. It's theological dodgeball, just rationalizations and excuses. If apologists want to sit around fooling themselves with these dubious dodges, then have at it. Yep. No skin off my back.
Go ahead.
But they aren't going to gaslight the rest of us into playing their delusional game or thinking that our logical inferences are somehow faulty. We see Christianity for what it most likely is, and our judgments therein are absolutely valid. Don't ever let these ball-dodging spin doctors tell you otherwise.
You're about as useful as a cock-flavored lollipop.
If you enjoyed this episode...
Fantastic. Derek Bennett, Theological, y'all already know. Like, sub, comment. All right, let's get into this little video I wanted to check out. Why organized religion undermines morality, and I think that's what this is coming about for me, y'all. And you know, as Lena always says, it's not true and it's fucking immoral. All right, but I think we got to focus on it's immoral, and it's because of exactly what we watched. Look at that all that bullshit we just watched. And again, please remember, I hate to be the one. No, I don't. Y'all know I'm a bad guy. Your family and friends can't do any better. They're not better Christians. I'm sorry, they're not. Look, if I got to deal with it with my family, I got to deal with it. My family, they some good ass Christians. They do all that fucking holy roller shit. Everybody thinks they're like saints and all of that shit. So look, trust me, I could throw yo grandma under the bus too. They're not that good at people because they're all doing the same fundamentally, intellectually dishonest bullshit. They are. They're not that stupid. And they're not that emotionally pathetic. Right? Think about, these are the people that raised you. Think about all the times they needed to show you some tough love, right? They could do it. Right? These are the people that taught you how to toughen up and how to take responsibility for yourself, and you got to get a job, and you got to work, and you got to deal with the limits of life, right? They taught you all about the tough lessons and being responsible. And now what? They don't want to face the truth because they're scared they won't live forever? Fuck out of here. That's the most selfish, pathetic bullshit ever. Is that what it takes to make somebody a bigot? Promise them eternity and then it's okay? Come on, man.
The question I want to ask you is, if you don't believe in the supernatural God and you don't believe in Jesus Christ, then what do you base your decisions on, right or wrong in your life?
I'm sure people may have different answers, but my answer is I apply the test of reason
cause and effect.
Kindness. I use the yardstick of reason and kindness. If I'm contemplating an action, is it reasonable? Is it kind? And that's all you need.
Can I comment on that?
Yes, please, Dan.
I met a couple of weeks ago with some people from Christian Research Institute to debate biblical contradictions. And one fellow pointed his finger at me and said, if I shared your present atheistic philosophy, you would be dead now. I said, I'd be dead? Why? He says, because I would kill you.
Why?
Without the moral restraint of the Bible, he said, I would be a wild animal, raping, running, killing, stealing, murdering. Thank God for the Bible who restrains me morally.
Man, I just gotta say, Christians, and I have heard Christians either say this or ask this. Y'all are monsters. Y'all are monsters. There's a couple things about this. There's two things this reveals when Christians say that. And again, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Quit fucking bullshitting. Your family would say this bullshit too. They would say this same goddamn bullshit. If they didn't say it, they would at least ask the stupid ass questions. Like, well, where do you get your morals from? Or how do you decide what's right and wrong? Right? They would say the same stupid bullshit. All right? And it reveals two things. Number one, y'all are some fucking monsters for even thinking that shit. And number two, and this is my favorite part, I love pointing this out, y'all are liars! It's just another flat out example of you lying for your religion. Shut up, bro. The reason is you're faithful to your wife is because you have no idea how the fuck you got a good ass woman to marry your ass. And you are scared to death, as your corny ass should be, that you will never come anywhere near a good woman like that again. And you know what? It's probably fucking true. So guess what? If you became an atheist tomorrow, not a goddamn thing would change as far as how faithful you are to your partner. You would not start lying around the office, because as soon as people realize you were lying around the office, they would fire your monkey ass. And again, Christianity has left you desperately uncharismatic and untalented, so you definitely don't want to fucking roll the dice with that shit. You don't commit crime. Nigga, please, most of y'all ain't never been in a fight, ain't never thrown a punch, and all of a sudden, without Jesus, y'all gonna be raping and murdering and assaulting people. Get the fuck out of here. Most of y'all are the type of people who we playing a game of basketball, you pass, and they literally dodge it. They treat fucking basketball like, I know you're supposed to catch the ball and shoot it. Catch the ball and shoot it. You're scared of a basketball. You gonna tell me without God, you're gonna be hard all of a sudden? You're gonna be running a gang or some shit like that? You're gonna be packing heat tomorrow? And don't nobody fucking love guns more than Christians anyway. Just a bunch of fucking liars.
I thank God for it too, because there are a lot of people who would do that. I made that point.
But you know what?
There are a lot of people who would be that way had they not the Bible to tell them not to be.
People like religion. That's what people like.
Oprah's such a fucking coon. Oh man, y'all, we not. I ain't gonna ruin Oprah for y'all. We'll come back to Oprah's coon ass some other time.
A census in England of the people. Last census in England asked religion.
Yo, look, we here to eat the rich. Okay, class trumps race anyway. Oprah part of the billionaire class. Okay, until Oprah turns over all of that fucking absorbent wealth she's been hoarding, I don't give a fuck. Fuck Oprah.
And for the very first time, only
I'm in the mood today.
More than 50% of the people in England declared themselves to be affiliated with the Church of England. 53%. They asked those people why they declared themselves, and they said, "Do you believe in transubstantiation? Do you believe in the virgin birth? Do you believe in this?" And the answer was no, 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 no. And they said, "Why are you religious?" And the answer was, "I like to think of myself as a good person," because religion has usurped that notion of morality.
I think it's degrading to the human, to us, to you and me, to state directly that absent a celestial dictatorship that had some supernatural influence over us, yet to be established, by the way, as anything really existent. But without the assumption of it, we wouldn't know right from wrong. We wouldn't return stolen property if we found it in the back of a cab. We wouldn't give blood if someone badly needed a transfusion, unless we were afraid either of punishment or desirous of a reward. You could tell me if you wanted that you would do all those things if you weren't God-fearing. But I would choose not to believe you. I have more respect for you, if not for your opinions.
Exactly.
People who are psycho or sociopathic may conceivably have the view that only superstition restrains them from cruelty, theft.
And it reveals something deeper about religious people in this regard. And again, y'all, it circles back to our chorus here. Christians just want to be Christians. What it reveals, yes, they're monstrous in terms of being willing to say and excuse anything, if only to make their God the winning argument. Number two, of course, they're liars because they're not being honest when they say shit like that. But it also just reveals how deeply they just will say whatever it takes. They are willing to say whatever it takes, unironically, to make sure that God comes out on top.
Rapine, violence, utter selfishness and so forth. But I don't believe it's true, first. I think our knowledge of the right and wrong is innate in us. Religion gets its morality from humans. We know that we can't get along if we permit perjury, theft, murder, rape. All societies at all times, well before the advent of monotheism certainly, have forbidden it.
We are poorly evolved mammals on a short-lived, rather endangered planet. People say, well, if you believe that, that's depressing, nihilistic, makes things seem so random and capricious and so on. Well, yes, but is it true or not? What is true of your view? What is true of your view, sir? Well, you've just said that God makes a human species, takes a brief look at it and decides it's in rebellion against me. You deliberately went to look for knowledge. Now you're in rebellion. Now you're going to suffer. Now there's nothing that won't happen to you.
What an asshole.
I made you and I can break you. And I will.
And we know it's not true.
I'll flood you, I'll plague you. Now, what is this? This is like being a terrible insect or rodent in the laboratory of a cruel and stupid person. And what is more nihilistic? What's more nihilistic and alienating than that? You have to consider yourself created incurably sick.
All right, Karen, we'll see you later.
On pain of death and eternal torture to be well. This is not morality. people do find themselves asking, if there's a God and if he's good, where is all this evil from? This is a strictly time-wasting question. Things like war and pestilence come because we are not very highly evolved animals who live on a rather climatically unstable planet and don't know very much yet about our circumstances. The way that we behave to each other is recognizable from the way that other animals behave to each other, unfortunately. But we have one very clear idea, and it's fortunately one that it's almost impossible for us to get rid of, that if we don't act responsibly to one another, whether for altruistic reasons or not, the motives don't necessarily have to be pure. But if we didn't have a social dimension, a bonding one, we wouldn't survive. We'd have gone by now. We wouldn't have made it out of Africa. The question, in a sense, answers itself. Now, you can call this morality if you want, and there certainly are some individuals who act in what appears to us to be a self-sacrificing way. And they've always got tremendous honor in all tribes, in all societies, and at all times. But it's only really necessary to recognize that we have a kinship and a solidarity, and that without it we're gone. Morality cannot be dictated to us. It doesn't come in tablet form that can be swallowed. It comes from the Socratic method of moral suasion, long reflection. Why should this be called wrong? Why would this be a dishonor? Otherwise, why do the Ten Commandments say nothing about slavery, nothing about genocide, nothing about child abuse, nothing about innumerable other things that preoccupy us and make us think, of which we think as evil, and about 4 instructions on how to worship a very jealous, capricious, and ill-tempered God?
Consider the second.
Again, he couldn't spare any time for thou shalt treat all people the same. He couldn't spare time for thou shalt not own other people. He couldn't spare time for thou shalt not hoard limited resources over the rest of the population to the detriment of others. I mean, I could go on with some commandments that, quite frankly, most of us would probably sign off on in a heartbeat. But a full 40% of the 10 commandments are thou shalt lick God's booty hole in just the right way or face his wrath. And again, I feel like perhaps the greatest act of rebellion in my life and the greatest show of integrity, again, far more impressive in my estimation than whatever we accomplish academically or professionally, is having the courage to simply say, this is absurd, and I don't believe this. And then the scorn. That you face for having the audacity to just, I don't know, not fail to notice or whatever. It's crazy.
Second commandment, thou shalt not erect any graven images.
Who gives
Is
a
this
shit?
really the second most important thing?
Facts, though.
Admonish all
Facts.
future generations of human beings.
Don't take
Is
pictures.
this as good as it gets, ethically and spiritually? Hey, you remember the Muslims who rioted by the hundreds of thousands over cartoons? What got them so riled up? Well, this is it, the second commandment. Now, was all that pious mayhem, the burning of embassies, the killing of nuns, was all of that some kind of great flowering of spiritual and ethical intelligence? Or was it egregious medieval stupidity? Well, come to think of it, it was egregious medieval stupidity. The truth is that almost any precept we would put in place of the second commandment would improve the wisdom of the Bible. How about don't mistreat children? How about don't pretend to know things you do not know? Or what about just try not to deep fry all of your food? Could we live with the resulting proliferation of graven images? I think we would manage somehow.
One of the things that's poisoning American political life, I think, that so many people, including members of Congress and people who vote for them, think you need religion in order to be a moral person. They cannot understand how it's possible to be a moral person without religion. When you think about the ways in which religion might make you a moral person, it's ghastly. I mean, think about, take the Bible, for example. If we based our moral values on the Bible, we would be stoning adulterers to death. We would be...
Well, that does happen, sadly.
It does
this
happen,
is a
exactly,
world in which this happens.
Stoning people who break the Sabbath by picking up sticks on the Sabbath day. It's possible, of course, to find nice verses in the Bible. They're pretty rare, but you can find them. You can cherry pick. You can go through and say, well, we're going to scrap that verse and that verse and that verse. Oh, here's a nice one. We'll have that one. Scrap this one, scrap this one, scrap this one. Oh, that's another nice one. But the criterion by which you decide which are the nice verses and which are the nasty verses has to be extra biblical. It has to be a criterion that's based on something other than the Bible. Obviously, otherwise it's circular. In which case, whatever that criterion is, let's go straight for it and cut out the middleman, which is the Bible. Why bother to use that criterion to decide which verses you like and which verses you don't like?
Because it allows some people to feel better than others.
And decide what's good.
There's no other reason.
Or bad on the basis of.
Let's just be honest. There's no other reason because they know, and they know this. They know this. They know we're not fucking the evil ones. They know the atheist standard of morality is usually leaning heavily progressive or towards humanism. They know what our advocacy for equal rights and equality is about. Let's stop this bullshit. They know who we are and they know who they are. They know what we want and they know what they want. This is about power. And I suggest we find a way to simply stop giving it to them.
A criterion which you would have used to decide which verses were good and which were not.
As it happens, I've had my DNA sequenced recently. You can get yours done too. You should.
You had it done?
Yeah, you can find what we always suspected. You know, I'm half a chromosome away from a chimpanzee, related also to plant and vegetable and other matter, as well as other animals. And I don't think evolution even knows that I'm here. And I don't think that the Big Bang originated with me in mind. I'm sorry to say that I'm not as solipsistic and self-centered and arrogant as the religious would have me be. I don't think that these processes had me in mind or are aware of my presence. Doesn't make me feel that I can go and do anything I want. Why doesn't it? I don't know why it doesn't. But I do know, by counterexample, that if I put this problem to you, name me an ethical action taken or a moral statement made by a believer that could not have been made or performed by a non-believer. I very much doubt you'll be able to do it. At least no one else has been able to yet. Give you time for it.
No,
if I asked any audience, can they think of a wicked action undertaken or a wicked statement made because of religion, nobody has a single second of hesitation before they can think of one. So you have advanced the argument, not at all. In fact, you've again degraded it to the view that we ought to believe foolish things, such as that we need divine permission to behave well, because if we didn't believe this, we might behave badly. Well, the facts are what they are, and the fact is that no, actually, material does come first.
But I've already
material.
granted you,
The mind is a brain before it's anything else. Of course, anyone who says to the contrary is talking abject nonsense.
It seems to me
fucking
that
foolishness.
Religion gives people bad reasons to be good, where good reasons are actually available. I mean, ask yourself, which is more moral? Helping the poor, feeding the hungry, defending the weak, out of a mere concern for their well-being, or doing so because you think the creator of the universe wants you to do it.
So well put.
The truth is, people do not need to be threatened with damnation to love their children, to love their friends, to want to collaborate with strangers, or indeed to recognize that helping strangers can be one of their greatest sources of happiness. And what kind of morality is it that is entirely predicated on a self-interested desire to escape damnation? This seems to bypass the very core of what we mean by morality, which is an actual concern for the welfare of other human beings. Clearly, it is possible to teach our children to form such a concern and to grow in empathy and compassion without lying to ourselves or to them about the nature of the universe, without pretending to know things we do not know. You can teach your children the golden rule as an utterly wise ethical precept without pretending to know that Jesus was born of a virgin.
That was fantastic, gang. It's not true, and it's immoral. Man, I want to find a way to change the whole approach to religion. I really do think we're doing ourselves a great disservice by not being more explicit with believers about exactly what the consequences are. I know it feels kind in the short run, but in the long run, it's really just civility rendering us powerless. I think religion's done great harm in my life. It's probably done great harm in most of your lives. And most of us are all too aware of the great harm it does in the world and the great initiative shown by the religious to escalate their efforts. And so I think we need to be actually humble enough to recognize the sort of fear of religion that a lot of us feel and be honest about how encroached upon these type of doctrines make us feel. All right, gang, it's Friday night. I think Nitty's going to come in and DJ, hopefully. So come hang out and gather. Come relax, hang out, have a dance party. Friday nights are usually our most fun time. Also, the NBA playoffs are on, so we're going to be playing the game. And most of us will be playing games and watching shows and having fun tonight. So come hang out with us. We'll be hanging out overnight. And, of course, we'll be in Gather all weekend. If you'd like to support our Gather capacity, please do consider becoming a member through Ko-Fi. The link is there in chat. It's also down in the description. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're watching later on, leave us a comment. Really appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time. Set 'em gone.
Why she wanna leave me alone? Saying all I do is wrong. No rights when they been left turns. Playing that she gotta let it burn. Saying that the house not a home. Sunshine cause she heard it all before. Sometimes she don't wanna be alone. Most times she don't want me gone. She don't know I try my all. She don't know I sprung in the sun, but I'm going in the winter, so we good to the fall. Remember how I told you I get it and I win. Now I'm got it, you ain't answer my call. Wonder if I've been moving too strong. Maybe I just been moving too balls. Really hate when the feeling get lost. Nowadays she just dodge my calls. In the game throwing laws like Paul. Young legend Miss John like Wall. And I wish you never met like Call. Thick game lay it down like law. Made plans but you canceled them all. I was just trying to splurge in the mall. Now I'm home stacking bread till you call. It's time to roll. She tryna slide
we smoking Zah. Stop acting shy, cause you a demon when I get between your thighs, girl. You like my rib, you know I need you by my side, girl. It's time to roll, she tryna ride, we smoking. Stop acting shy, cause you a demon when I get between your thighs, girl. You like my rib, you know I need you by my side, girl.
We smoking that side, I'm tryna get high. She said that she not ready for lust, I waste my time. I got demons in my closet, I can't hide. I did all my exes wrong, they wish I died. Damn, I tried. They won't believe me when I say this. Oh my God, what a blessing. Hello Phoenix, that's my twin. I told these hoes they won't get my heart again, not again. Cause they went missing when I needed just a friend.
They went missing, yeah, they always missing. They don't want no smoke, they hit the blunt and started tripping. My daughter about to be 5, I ain't got no time to be bitching. I'm still reminiscing, we ain't had no food in the kitchen. I gotta go and stack. I'm waiting, know I'm heading, but I'm going out. I hit the side, now your sack feel like I'm throwing up. And I just took another perk, cause one wasn't enough. Yeah. It's time to roll, she tryna slide, we smoking Zah. Stop acting shy, cause you a demon when I get between your thighs, girl. You like my rib, you know I need you by my side, girl. It's time to roll, she tryna ride, we smoking. Stop acting shy, cause you a demon when I get between your thighs, girl. You like my rib, you know I need you by my side, girl. It's time to roll.